how do we endure in today's world is what we're going to talk about now. And it is certainly something which, in today's world, everybody can certainly use some tips on how to endure.
Right. So we have 4 tips on how to endure.
Okay, cool.
The first one, I'll read through them each individually, and then we can talk about each one separately.
Okay.
So the first one is by practicing suitable mental exercises.
Okay.
Number 2 is physical exercises.
Okay.
Number 3 is focus on one thing only.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4 is challenge yourself to do things that you've never did before. Be sure to use caution and common sense.
Okay.
So those are the 4. So the first one was, crap. What was the first one?
It's right there. You can improve your mental.
Practicing mental. Okay, sorry. The first one was by practicing sustainable mentalities.
Exercise your 3 pounds of gray matter. That's what you do.
I think I need to do that. I think I got lots of gray matter in here right now, considering I just said it and now I can't remember. So, anyways, tell me about it. Tell me.
How do we exercise our mind?
Yeah.
To endure?
Yeah.
So,
Like, why would that be a good thing to have more endurance?
it's literally what I said in the last show.
I know. I was actually thinking we were
Yeah,
touching
this could be
quite a
books,
bit.
apps, videos, or other sources. Yeah. So yeah, great way to be able to increase your endurance and increase your mental capacity is to have a regular routine where you're doing something that mentally that exercises your mind mentally. So
What are
you
some
want
examples for that?
So I personally really love audiobooks.
Yeah.
Right. So if you get into the regular routine of actually listening to audiobooks, then you can get into being able to take in a lot of good stuff and being able to increase your, like, the more you're taking in positive feedback, the more you're going to be able to have more endurance in your life, because it's almost like, what's the breakfast of champions? It's not going to be Fruit Loops and Oreos. No. it's gonna be good things, right? So the problem is that oftentimes people's mental diets are a lot of garbage, right? So if you can continually be able to counter that with good things like shows like Enter the Bunker and other things to be able to build those building bricks, then having those mental exercises regularly where you're listening to audiobooks or reading books or doing that on a daily basis.
Time for some mental clarity, so doing nothing.
So mental exercise in terms of silence, yoga or something like that.
Or meditation.
Yeah, that's certainly something else you could do.
Yeah, I guess everybody would be different depending on.
If you can have the mental, so if you're at a point where you can you can have those moments of silence to actually focus on a specific thing that is good, then things like yoga or meditation. Actually, I can remember when I was younger and I had time for this, I used to go for really long walks.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. So with that, I wasn't listening to music. I wasn't listening to anything. It would just be the silence of whatever was around me.
Yeah.
And I would just be left with my thoughts. Right? And so then that would, and of course, usually when I was going on those long walks, it was because I was really focused on something that was specific. Right. And
you
so
knew you needed to think about it.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard complete silence before?
Yeah, here in the bunker.
You've heard complete silence, not a single thing.
Yeah, so there's been, so when you're here in the bunker and all the power is off, there is nothing. It just turns full dead. You're 40 feet underground. There's just...
Plus, if you were go to the CBC recording studio.
Oh, especially in the CBC recording studio. Yeah. So you turn off all the power. So there's absolutely no movement left in this place. There's no humming of electricity or anything. The water's not moving. Nothing's happening. Then this place becomes full silence.
Yeah, that'd be creepy. I think I've only heard silence. I think I have here before in the sound room. And nothing, no filter or fans were running or anything.
Yeah, the CBC studio, you could do that.
But I can't say for sure. But one time that I definitely remember is we were waiting for the bus outside of school, and I flew my body down into like a snowbank. So then like the snow was all like up around my head, and my brother was beside me, and we were just laying there like looking up. And I was probably listening for the bus, which is why I was even clued in. But I was like, Kevin, do you hear that? He's like, what? I'm like, I hear nothing. Just, it was complete silence. Just probably because the snow was around our heads, but I could hear nothing. And it was the first time in my life that I recognized I hear complete silence. It was weird.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. That actually, when I think back to like all the times that when you play in the snow, it happens often. Like even when you're playing outside in the snow, there's just this deadening of any kind of noise, right?
Yeah.
And it's because the snow itself is an insulator, and it just takes it all up.
Yeah,
right?
so true. So you can do that through audiobooks, meditation, yoga, apps, video games, right? You could do it through video games. Show your mental endurance.
That's fair. That's fair. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Looking at me, I'm like, I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's lots of other sources out there for.
Yes.
Everyone's going to be different. So the second one was physical exercises. So physical exercises are important not only for the body, but also for the brain, since they send more oxygen and blood to the brain.
So what kind of physical exercises?
Anything that gets your heart pumping.
Okay. Jumping jacks. Hit them.
Hit them.
Who says that?
I don't
What
know.
movie is that from?
Star Wars.
Wrong. How could you say Star Wars? You've never even seen Star Wars.
I know, that's what I thought it was. Okay, one second. Shrek.
No.
Is it
Okay, I'll give you another hit.
Okay.
Jumpy jacks, hit them. 1, 2, 3. I'm so pumped up. You must know that quote.
No.
You don't know that quote.
What's it from?
Lego the movie.
Oh.
It's a kid's movie, so you should have known
I
it.
should know. It's probably like the most recent movie I've seen.
But yeah, so in Lego the movie, of course, everyone had to follow the instructions.
Yep.
And one of the instructions was to exercise when you woke up, right? Mm-hmm. So same sort of thing is the idea to actually get physical activity so that you get your blood pumping, and that's going to give you the endurance to go through whatever you need to go through.
Gets that oxygen to the brain.
Oxygen to the brain is very important.
What do you think? What physical exercise would you do to get your
Get my
brain
blood pumping?
brain full of oxygen?
Well, on a daily basis, I generally like to go for walks.
Okay.
Like fast stride type of walks.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I do that around the bunker.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody here is like see me just like zoom by in the hallways
Or
somewhere.
pacing areas.
Yeah. So, or I'll go down into like the black box or something, and I'll just go roaming all over that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. A physical exercise that I could do. I don't know, chase my kids in the morning to get frickin' dressed. It's a challenge. I don't know for me. Maybe I should try waking up early enough in the morning and walking.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, right. I can't say I could never. Because a year ago, I could hardly even get out of bed in the morning. And now I'm doing that no problem. So maybe a year from right now, I'll be walking in the mornings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's funny. Like,
It's
so
crazy what can
there's
happen
some
in a year.
there's some things that really like as you get older, there's things that you do that you never thought you would do.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
So one of the things that are a staple for a lot of successful people, they talk about their morning routines.
Yeah.
One of the things they'll say is they make their bed as soon as they wake up.
Yes. Isn't there a book or a documentary on called Make Your Bed?
Really? There's a whole book about it?
Or it's something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so I know that it's one of those things. Like among them is like get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Like or before everybody else, right? And then like make
That way
your
you get
bed.
your
when
time.
Yeah. So and that's exactly it. Is that they take the time before they get into the workday to go through this routine that gets them ready, right?
Yeah.
So what's ironic is that myself, I've never actually done that like for a really long time, and I've never imagined like why would I make my bed? It was like one of those things that I just didn't care about.
Yeah.
Now, here's what's weird. Just in the last, I'd say, 6 months,
Yeah.
I suddenly found myself it's not like I was like, I need to do this. It was just like automatic. I suddenly found myself getting up, and as soon as I got up, I made my bed. I'd never done that before. But for some reason, something was just telling me, okay, make my bed. And just like, I'm just waking up. Like, it's not like I'm, chip or anything. But something happened and suddenly I changed and I was like, okay, I'm making my bed. And it just started doing it. It's so weird that I started doing that.
And 21 days forms a habit.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like a long time ago, I would have just never imagined that. And when I read that about like people who are successful, I was just like, why do they do that? Like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Suddenly I just started doing it and it was weird. And I was just like, why am I changing like this?
The first
Why
day you did it, did you question yourself? Why am I doing this?
Yeah. Well, no. When I did it, I was just like, okay, made my bed. And I don't know, nothing, it was weird. It's almost like it was autonomous. It was almost like something just told me do this and I just did it. I didn't have to force myself to do it. It was really strange.
I'm going to look up that book quickly.
You know what else I did that was different in the last year?
What?
I started flossing.
Yeah, that's good. Flossing's good.
So like my whole life, like that's been a challenge for me. I hate flossing.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll go for like mouthwash and things like that, right? And I'm just like, oh, it's good enough, right? But for some reason, again, almost like in the last 6 months, I suddenly like there's times when I'm just like, I gotta floss. Yeah. So I just started getting into that. Not I wouldn't say it's regular, but far more than I ever have in my life. Like in the last 6 months, I can't believe how many times I've flossed. Because the rest of my life, I just never wouldn't in the past.
Yeah. I just looked up here. It is a book called Make Your Bed.
Okay.
And it and it really just elaborates pretty much on everything that we had said about starting your day off. And if you make your bed, it says like I remember I've read like the thing on it before, but it says about like all these different ways of why that making your bed every day helps you, not just for your day, but for other things too. So
right.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3 is number 3 is what is number 3?
Rather than diving.
Yeah, but focus on one thing only.
One thing only.
Right. And then number 4 is challenging yourself. Okay. So number 3 is focusing on one thing only. So to go into a little bit more detail on that, if you have 6 things to do, pick one and focus. That's not much more detail, but you get the drift. So that kind of goes back to like my task list is, so maybe I shouldn't be jumping back and forth and doing different tasks maybe, because remember I said if I'm doing one and I'm getting frustrated and kind of done with it, I'll switch to a different task.
Right.
Maybe I should focus on one thing only. But I guess as long as when I'm doing that task, the other tasks aren't on my head, because I did the one task, stopped it, started focusing on another task. So I'm still focusing on the task I've given myself at hand.
Right. But what you can do to be able to improve that is actually that when you do find yourself getting the sense that you're like, you know what, I've had enough of this, I'm moving to the next one, just don't do that. And just keep pushing through it a little longer. Yeah. Just like, you know what, I'm going to give myself another 2 minutes at this. Okay. Or just set a limit.
I think I do that.
Just like if you hit that point and just say,
you're gonna let me cough?
Yeah, I'm gonna cough.
Thank you.
There you go. So if you just hit that point and you just need to just give yourself a limit, just saying, look, I'm gonna give myself another 5 minutes on this and push through that. And that way, the more you do that, the more you'll be able to actually get things done probably. Yeah. Because we tend to stop, like where we hit those walls is usually like just at that point where we're just about to make a breakthrough, right? So it may be that you just need to have that mental reset of like, okay, you hit that wall and it's like, okay, now I'm going to push through it. Yeah. And you just give yourself saying, okay, another 5 minutes, I'm going to get this done. Next thing you know, it took only like another minute and you were done. Right. Right. So if you make it a practice to set a limit beyond where you normally would stop and just do that reset, then you can build your endurance. So when it comes to hitting walls in everything, then not to like just stop there and just keep pushing through it. Exactly.
What's that called again? We talked about it in the first episode for endurance.
Perseverance?
No. Like being lazy. What was the word?
Being lazy.
Not lazy. Passive.
Passive. Okay.
Passive.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you're going to stop, that's probably pretty passive of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. I get it. And finally, the last one was the Pomodoro effect. Just joking. It was challenge yourself to do things that you've never done before. So again, we've talked about this in previous episodes where you go out of
Scroll up.
your comfort zone. So what do we call that? Your die zone. The die zone.
So number 3 is where we're supposed to talk about the Pomodoro Method.
Oh.
We just didn't see that. So, yeah, that's all we saw.
I thought it was very similar to number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait.
It was split up over 2 pages, so I just lowered it.
Yeah. Sorry, can you scroll down? What was number 4 then?
Challenge yourself to do things you never did before, but use caution and common
Okay,
sense.
that one's just an easy.
Yeah.
Okay. So he can just cut that out. We'll keep talking about the
Pomodoro?
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying like give yourself like an extra 5 minutes. Say I'm going to do this for 2 more minutes. I'm going to strive to do this. I'm going to get this done. And then you said you're going to have it done in a minute, but you might not. So then at that point, you could probably put yourself in and do the Pomodoro effect.
Pomodoro?
Pomodoro.
Pomodoro.
Pomodoro effect. Do you know what that is?
Pomodoro Method?
Method. I'm thinking like butterfly effect or something.
So, yeah. Pomodoro Method is basically a very structured system where it's like if you're going to do something, focus on it for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And after 25 minutes, stop, right? Give yourself a break, right? And so...
But what if you're at like a breakthrough, like you were just saying?
I know it takes a certain discipline,
Yeah.
right? I feel like if you do that, I think you'll start to train your mind to actually work in that way. You know what I mean? Like you would actually in that 25 minutes, you'll just be so focused that you're gonna get more done. Yeah. And then that 5-minute break allows you to reset, and then you know that once you get back into that 25-minute cycle, you're gonna be even more focused. Here's an interesting thing about distractions. There's a study that shows.
I was waiting for you to bring this up.
So there's a study that shows there was this trend happening over the last 10 years of offices that were going from being regular offices where people worked in their own cubicles or in their own offices and they were completely separated from everybody. But now it went to open concept where everybody was in the same room, right? And so what they found is that over time they were finding that a lot of the employees were just being less and less productive. Right? They were just they're not producing as much. And what they found, and so they started to study how they were interacting. Here's what they realized. Every time there is a distraction from what you're working on, this is crazy. It takes 23 minutes
to get back on task.
To get you back to where you were. Yeah, and it could be any little distraction. So it's like, it's somebody walking by and going, hey, where's that thing? And then it took you off your task. But then mentally you go back. We're not like a light switch that we flip on and off, right? What happens is our mental capacity just has to go back into this whole process of revving up, right? So they found that with every distraction, it takes a person 23 minutes to get back to where they were before, which means that imagine all the distractions that happen in an open concept place. So a lot of people in those types of environments ended up putting on headphones so they would hear nothing, right? And usually it's music, right? So then they would just be going to that rhythm and they'd be doing whatever they're doing. And then some people just couldn't handle it and ended up going into their own office, right? So there's
that's kind of like going against the Pomodoro method because you said, I don't know. Do you think it's going against that? Because the Pomodoro method is you work for 25 minutes, have a break for 5 minutes, then go back into it for another 25 minutes, and you keep doing that repetitively until the task is finished.
Right, without distractions.
Yes, but the 5-minute break is not a distraction. So then it's technically going to take you 23 minutes to get back into the groove, and then you got 2 minutes left of your 25 minutes.
So the idea is that with the Pomodoro method is that the moment you get started, you're only focusing on the one task, right? So I can imagine that probably as you're getting going, you are probably just getting the most optimized near the end.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also only have so much optimization for so long.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I guess too, it's like depends on the distraction. So like the method is you do the 25 minutes and you take your 5-minute break. That 5-minute break is supposed to be get up, walk around, move your feet, have a pee, have a glass of water, and get back to it. So the distraction, it's not too much of a distraction. It's more of a relaxing.
It's more like structuring the distractions.
Right.
And
versus
actually,
somebody coming in your office and being like, hey, Kelly, do you know where the baseball bat is? I went there and I'd be like, and then you have to think about it and it's completely throwing me off task.
Yeah.
Like, so I can see, okay, I'm getting it.
so with the Pomodoro Method, actually, because of what I talked about, some people, when it comes to the Pomodoro Method, actually feel that they want longer sprints in terms of the time frames.
I would feel that.
So that would be like maybe instead of 25 minutes, they would want 45 minutes
Yeah.
to be the sprint.
Yeah.
Because then they can, like we talked about, have that full, like, in the zone kind of space. 45 minutes is really long though. Like to me, that's endurance. So may not be a bad idea actually to start with 25.
I was just gonna say that. No joke. I was about
Start
to
with
say
25, then move
your
up,
way up.
move up to 30, move up to 35,
Yeah.
and just see how far you can go until you start to notice how you start to notice your mental capacity. If it's just like fading too much as you get further on, then maybe
Yeah.
you just gotta wait and build
Pull
that
it
up a
back,
little
yeah.
longer, right? But over time, you could probably end up going longer. And there is that debate. I actually recall reading this like in the past, like the idea that we're talking about where it takes time for your mind to actually get into that from distractions.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I know sometimes certain days can be distracting, and we have signs on our doors that we can throw up, and they say "Do not disturb," and it's
Yeah.
sometimes I try not to throw that up very often because I want my office door to be open for everybody at any time. But sometimes you just need to get into that groove. So then I throw it up, close the door, and you only need like an hour just so I can just like bang some stuff out.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to do that.
Yeah, I've had days like that where
Yeah.
I literally was like, I don't care what it is.
You came
do
to-
not,
yeah.
yeah, do not talk to me.
Yeah.
I do not open my office until
Yeah.
this is done.
Yeah.
Sort of
exactly.
thing. And
Well,
I had to.
And that's
yeah.
like self-discipline for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. All right, so number 4 is to challenge yourself to do things that you've never done before. Key here is make sure you're using common sense and caution, because you obviously want to try things you've never done before, but just because somebody's jumped off a bridge doesn't mean you're going to too.
Who's jumped off a bridge? What kind of
I
advice
don't
is
know.
that?
That was like the weirdest example, but funny story. I remember growing up as a kid, and we'd be like, well, Sarah did that. And my parents would be like, if Sarah went and jumped off a bridge, would you? And I would always say, yeah, if I had a bungee cord attached to me. Just always had
Sassy.
to have, right? Always had to
Yeah.
have the last word. Anyways. Yeah, so don't jump off bridges unless you have bungee cords attached to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, common sense. Common sense is one thing. Actually, common sense is not common. Like you hear that all the time, right?
Yeah, all the time.
But in terms of like caution, again, that has to do with attitude. So if you want to be able to expand and challenge yourself, you have to look at things that you say, oh, I would never do that, and do it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like clearly you're not going to do something that's going to kill yourself. But,
No.
but for example, public speaking.
Yeah.
Right?
One
so
of the biggest fears.
it's one of the most common fears, more than death itself for a lot of people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So imagine just like really pushing yourself to actually challenge yourself and actually not maybe even start with a 5-minute speech, right? So then you build and then you work your way through that, and then you go and you push yourself to be able to do 10,
Yeah.
and you go further. Myself, I'm doing a 20-minute talk on like next
Sunday.
week, right? Yeah. So, and I have no problem with that now because I've done hundreds of them.
I know, you're
Right.
so good at it.
Yeah, so, well, it wasn't like that in the beginning.
I
so,
can kind of think about this for like tours. When I was first trained for tours here at the bunker, I was trained, and then the first tour I had to give was to you.
Yep.
And I was just vibrating, but I was in like my death zone.
Yeah.
I was completely out of my uncomfort zone, but at the same time, when I got hired, I'm like, yeah, I'm a people person. Like I'm bubbly, which I am, but I still had to go out of that comfort zone, and I was in that death zone. But then I did it, and then soon enough, I was just like, people come in, they want a tour, sure, I'll give you a tour. Like it was It
Yeah.
was just easy.
Yeah.
It became easy.
And it became fun.
Yeah.
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 So you took something that was challenging at first.
Yeah.
And then you endured
Endured.
to
Yeah.
push through.
I did.
And of course now, and so you developed a whole new skill.
Yeah.
And the more you did it, like you didn't even just get better at it. You just like enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. I was
So-
actually calm and relaxed and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the best part about when you do those tours is, of course, the response that everybody has to them, right?
Yeah.
Because you see how everybody just like I always remember like that when people come through, I would there's like certain places where I would say something and everybody laughs.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
there's certain places that everyone's like, wow, you know. And so always being able to see that first time, like that's amazing, kind of a sense that people have.
And I got to, once I got comfortable in the position too, I got to like recognize, so when you have a tour with kids, they're most likely going to want to see like the fun stuff, or versus if you have a tour with a 70-year-old man who's into generators, what are they going to like? They're going to like the mechanical room.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be different for each person, but being in like the nervous state and like the death state at first, when I first, you can't recognize that stuff because you're so like in your own space, like how nervous or how out of my comfort zone I was. But then once you get into it, once it becomes more comfortable, you're able to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all you're thinking about is how you're serving those people that you're
Yeah,
taking
and how
around.
I can make them happy and
Exactly.
what can I do to serve them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So those are how-tos. Is there anything that you think you can do to test your endurance by challenging yourself to do something you've never done before?
Like right now?
Yeah. Like within the next year, what's something that you can do?
The next year.
Yeah. I
Okay,
want it
that-
to be big.
That's long term.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about skydiving before.
What? Skydiving?
Didn't you say you wanted to?
Well, yeah, but that was before I got married and had kids, so so I can't do those things now.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, not without actually getting killed from something else other than skydiving.
I didn't catch on there, but now I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, you think, and I'm going to think too what I could do.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to say skydiving. Skydiving, it's the easiest thing. I'd like to invent something someday.
What?
Yeah.
Invent something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you know what I want to invent? I'm going to tell the world because somebody should invent it. And I just don't have the capacity to do it. So when you type something out on a computer,
Yeah.
and say you're not looking at your screen when you're typing, and then you look at your screen and it's all in caps,
Mm-hmm.
there should be a thing that you copy and paste, right click, and turn to lowercase.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. So you're asking for a feature
Yeah, feature.
to right click and lower cap.
Yeah.
Doesn't Word do that?
No.
Pretty
Maybe.
Microsoft Word I think does that.
But like, chat doesn't.
So you want chat programs to have that.
Yeah, because I'm always yelling at people, and because I'm not paying attention to the screen. I'm just typing, and then I look, and I'm like, oh, sorry for yelling at you. I didn't mean for that to be all in caps.
Okay.
When I could, or I'll notice it, and I'll get this big paragraph typed out, and it's all in caps, and I literally have to type it all out again. It's not a simple click, 1, 2, 3.
You can write an entire paragraph without actually looking and realizing you're using caps. What's that?
Okay, well, I'm talking about like a 2-sentence paragraph, and I may be
Okay,
exaggerating, but still, it'd be a neat feature to have. What, don't you think? I can't believe nobody's invented that yet.
Is it a common problem or is it a Kellyism?
I figured it's common for everybody, but maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe that's just me. Does that never happen to you?
It never happens to me, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Okay, it might just be me, but I know some people out there are like me when it comes to that. All right, so I'm going to invent something before I die. That's my
Okay.
goal to challenge myself sometime. Won't be that because I've just told the world now, so hopefully somebody just goes and does it.
I'm pretty confident
But nobody's going to.
it's a mountain that's left for you to climb alone. It's okay. Yes.
All right, before I die, that feature shall be implemented on across even cell phones.
Yeah.
That'd be cool too.
Okay.
Except for you're looking at the phone. Yeah, never mind. I don't know. Anyways, did you tell me yours?
So yeah, in terms of What are we talking about now?
Something that you can do to challenge yourself,
To challenge myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, to build my endurance.
to build your endurance.
Okay. So I think probably a good idea if I could, I mean, here's the
Do
thing.
a front flip while skiing.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen. So so something that takes endurance is weight management. So
And the camera goes to Kelly.
so weight management is a challenge that takes endurance, especially for me. Like I've yo-yoed my whole life. Like it's like second nature to know exactly how it is to lose weight now to me,
Yeah.
right? And then it's weird that even if you know that, you still gain weight.
Right.
It's so weird, right? So I
You
think
probably get into like, I don't care phase. I'm eating what I want to eat.
yeah, well, it depends on why you eat, right? So oftentimes, like if you have an attitude of like fuel is energy, and then suddenly you don't need that much energy, so you eat less and things like that,
Yeah.
then you tend to do better. But if food tends to be a comfort food, and you're going through a lot of emotional turmoil, then you can gain a lot of weight quick,
Yeah.
right?
50 pounds in 9 months.
So, thank you, Kelly, for sharing that. But I think that if I was going to challenge myself over the next year,
Yeah.
was it? It would be to stay consistent with a particular weight.
Yeah.
Right. It may not be my ideal weight
No?
because I've never in my life been able to be consistent in terms of a certain weight. Like I've either been like way up and then I come down to a certain point and then I go back up and then come down to a certain
But
point.
even just to maintain like a mediocre like consistency, like you said, like
Yeah, something that's going to be just constant
Yeah.
for a long period of time.
Yeah.
A good constant. Like if I can get to a certain level
Yeah.
and then just maintain that, then that would be very challenging for me because my whole life, I just talked about how suddenly I started fasting, suddenly I started making the bed. So maybe I can
suddenly start
actually maintaining a regular weight. That's ideal. So maybe even ideal. I don't know, because I've never been in my ideal weight my entire life. So
Yeah. August 2020. That's me. All right. So guys, pick something that will challenge you and give yourself like a deadline for it or like a goal at least. And that will help you build your endurance.
100%.
Or do any one of those 4 steps that we talked about.
Yeah, those are 4 ways that you can do it.
Yeah. All right, stay tuned for next week. I wonder what it will be about.
I wonder.